I have lived in this community my entire life.
As I said, that's one of the reasons we came back to Wausa was the people.
There's lots of things you don't think about until after you start talking about it, how much we have to offer in Wausa.
I wouldn't have lived here all my life, so yes, I love Wausa.
We got married in 1963 in September. She lived in Omaha and I lived here, and I was pretty busy, so we had about 4 or 5 dates and we got married in 5 months. Take care of that.
Well, we've been married now 50 years. She'll probably not like that I told you this, but she had moved to Wausa when she was a senior in high school. At the time, I was working at the grocery store, and I had seen her in the store, and I went up to the county fair, and I was with a couple other people, and she was up there with some girls from here in town. Unbeknownst to her, there were some guys that were hassling them. She thought they were hassling them, but in reality, those guys knew the girls. Deb didn't know that, and I came walking by, and she jumped out and grabbed me and said, "I'm with him."
When Wausa School started with bus routes and redistricting, my sister was already going to high school in Wausa, and I was going to start what had to have been in Bloomfield because our farm was on the borderline. So my dad did not want us to go to different schools. They looked at farms and bought a farm by Wausa. We had I think it was an oil stove that was in our living room, and that was the only heat for the whole house. So us kids got used to waking up in the morning and coming downstairs and laying by the oil stove to get warm.
When I got out of the service, I got out in 1956. I couldn't wait to get home. My father was 54 years old then, and he was pretty old and decrepit. And then I figured I better get home and help him. So he got me started farming. The only thing is he worked harder than I did for the next 30 years afterward. So Virginia worked for the newspaper there she wrote an article for the Wausa Gazette. And
yes, I forgot about that.
that time. And then she was making some big wages. She's getting $3 a week. So
for most of my life, I worked in the grocery store. Worked for Delwyn and Ruth Anderson for 9 years, and I would have to put in a plug. He was the most wonderful, wonderful boss you could ever have. And then Deb and I bought the store from them.
I got a job out at Offutt Air Base in the underground, and during the Cuban crisis even, which was really very interesting. When I quit was because I had met him, and we were shortly married after that. When I came to Wausa, I was a farm wife.
he was a lousy truck driver.
Well, I told him if he wanted to have a farm wife, he should have stayed home and found one instead of going down to Omaha.
All the local girls knew me too well.
His reputation, yes. When I did move here, my girlfriends would write, and, well, what do you do? And as time went on, I told them, well, if I had any more to do, I would, I wouldn't be able to handle it. So I guess it all worked out.
The locker here in town ran into some financial difficulties, and the bank took it over, and they hired me to be the manager. We hired Levon Anderson as our manager, and obviously you can see that was a great hire, and it's one of the best locker plants in northeast Nebraska.
The Wausa Lockers was needing someone to manage it. I managed it, and then I took over leasing it, and soon after that, I bought it. I owned and operated the Wausa Lockers for 21 years. Little did I know when I started that it was going to got into what it did.
I became the librarian in Wausa, and I was there for 36 years. Helped to get the grant for the new library and design the inside. It took quite a number of years to get the board to agree that we needed a new one to begin with, and then to raise the money for the library. But it all worked out, and I hope people will go and use the library. It is such a wonderful thing to have in the town.
Wausa, for a small town, is a very progressive community. And if you look at the call center here in town, the child support call center, that was a huge accomplishment for those guys that worked on that and the hours they spent trying to entice that business here to town. So we have the child support call center for the whole state of Nebraska, right here in Wausa, Nebraska. And it was all because of those guys getting involved. And I want to say, I was in the legislature when that happened. I wasn't part of it. I don't know if you've ever heard the story of how it eventually ended up happening, but when the team was going around looking at different communities, they were landing, I believe the landing was in Creighton, Nebraska, and they had the Wausa band over there along the runway playing when the plane landed. That's as I remember the story. I just can't say enough. Wausa's a progressive community and has done a lot of things like that to keep the town moving forward.
Someone was talking about our town recently and did talk about everything evolved around the school. Well, there is a lot, but gosh, when you got your kids winning one-act play and speech and all these good things, you know, you have a right to be proud of your community.
We have a fantastic school system here, a fantastic school building. And it's not just the academics. If you look in recent years, 12 out of 13 years, they've won the state one-act play. They've been state champions. Speech, a similar thing, not quite as many years, but they've won state championships in speech. So Wausa is very, very well known.
I like the feeling of closeness of the people. A lot has been accomplished in the last few years in Wausa, and I don't think people realize just how much has been. Well, the walking trail now, that's going to be tremendous, and the swimming pool, the library.
We have always had a Swedish heritage in our town. For as many years as I can remember, have had a Wausa smorgasbord. All of the community comes together and cook and prepare all of this Swedish food. I mean, it used to be busloads of people would come.
From Norfolk, Omaha, and that's what it takes. It takes everybody, you know, doing their thing, I guess.
We had a Swedish prayer, and my grandpa and grandma always made sure that we said that Swedish prayer. So that was passed on to my mom and dad.
Do you have the Swedish prayer? Can you say
Oh, sure. Jesu gevitte bu, satte dritte pudezu, gute lær, osagan, for ma, Jesu amen. And that is, come Lord Jesus. Like, it's not exactly like that, but that is what we're saying is.
We're lucky we have good young people that have taken over now, you know, that are in their 20s and 30s and that.
This is a very caring village. If you have a family emergency, you know you have neighbors and a lot of support. People are good.
I certainly recommend to them that they would enjoy living in Wausa.
The Wausa Development Corporation has lots available in their South Addition to purchase and build your dream home on. For more information, contact Jordan Johnson at 402-586-2266 or jordan.johnson at wausabank.com. The Development Corporation would love to discuss any questions you have, and we would love to see you as the next People of Wausa.